All right, as mentioned, welcome back to module number 4 for One Shopping Cart Bootcamp. Let's have a look at our agenda for today. As always, we'll go through the usual housekeeping goodies. We'll review module 3, and then we're going to talk about one of the sections that we didn't get to last week, which was just email setup, which is really more relative to what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about templates, autoresponders, broadcast. We'll do our homework, and we'll have our Q&A. So today you're going to kind of dive more into One Shopping Cart as well. So as always, just a reminder, you will get reminders from GoToWebinar. It's still a good idea to put it on your calendar just in case those reminders come late. Recordings and resources are uploaded weekly. There'll be some additional tweaking to some of the documents I'm going to be making, so I'll let you know if you need to re-download those. Thank you for those who participate in the Facebook group. That's where you want to go to make sure you ask any questions for support, to also connect with others. The practice sandbox is available to you. There are login and details at the bottom of the library page. And as always, if you have any issues or questions, you can post in the Facebook group, or you can send us an email at help@techiementor.com. So module 3 was all about setup and configuration of those menus. Hopefully you guys had a chance to either watch the video again or actually get in and play around with the One Shopping Cart to kind of get a better idea of not a better idea, but a better feel, I will say, for all of the menu options and whatnot. Okay, so email setup. This was something that we didn't talk about last week because I think it's more relevant to what we're going to be doing today. But when you're working in One Shopping Cart, one of the things you have to realize is that double opt-in is on by default, okay? And you can turn it off. And there's tons of conversations around, do I need it? Should I have it? And it really comes down to what's your preference. I turned mine off. I don't want a double opt-in. Some people say, well, if you have a double opt-in, you get a cleaner list. What I ended up getting was more people who were confused because they weren't getting what I had promised them, because they weren't double opting in. They weren't clicking on that extra link. So I turned it off. You need to do what's best for you. Your clients need to do what's best for them. But a double opt-in basically means they sign up on your web page, they hit submit, and then they don't actually get anything until they've actually clicked on a link that's sent to them in an email from One Shopping Cart that says, hey, click here. A lot of people miss that second step, and then they get disgruntled because they're not getting what they were promised. So if that's the case, you're going to have to make sure that when they sign up for something that you let them know that there's a second step. Always good to say, hey, you need to make sure that you signed up. That's a good question, Laura. I don't know if Canada requires a double opt-in. I've heard both sides of that story. I've heard that yes, they do, but they don't. Obviously, it's permission-based, but that's something that we may want to ask. I know Sylvie would know, but maybe I'll put that on a notepad and see if I can get you a direct answer for that. Okay, oops. Well, we'll come back to setup templates. Anyway, I want to talk to you about that double opt-in. Now, I want to make sure, can you see the left side of my screen? Because my screen's so big, sometimes I cut off the left side. I just want to make sure. So, Laura, can you let me know? Thumbs up, thumbs down? You can see. Okay, good. And I'll actually zoom in a little bit so it's bigger because I know it's kind of small. Voila, there we go. Okay. So what we want to talk about, let me just hide this real quick, is setting up the email piece. So we're going to go under email and marketing, email setup. Now this actually has 3 different pieces to it. So we're going to kind of talk through all these 3. We're going to start with opt-in preferences. So this is where you tell your One Shopping Cart whether or not you want to do a double opt-in. Remember, it's already on. This is only if you want to turn it off. Okay, it's on by default. If your client says, hey, don't want double opt-in, or yes, I want double opt-in, this is where you're going to go to confirm. So we're going to walk through this screen real quick. First of all, you can see verified opt-in stats. I have a total of 10 people who were verified, which means it was double opt-in. 10 people actually clicked on the link that says, yes, I want to be part of your list. 34 were not. So that's what those 2 numbers mean. You actually have opt-in verification messages. Okay, there are some, and you can create your own. Okay, so there are templates that One Shopping Cart gives you. Then there are ones that you can create. As you can see, I have one for Aweber, one for Constant Contact. So I created these. So for instance, if I click on this one, it means right now, if I was to click on send opt-in verification message, it would send this template to these 34 people. In other words, they're going to have to click on a link again, or I shouldn't say again. They never actually did a double opt-in. This would ask them to click on a link to verify and to confirm that they do want to be part of my list. These 10 people have already done that. Now, if you're saying, okay, well, what is this MailChimp opt-in? And notice how it says approved. By the way, One Shopping Cart approves everything that you do customize. Okay, last week, if you remember, I created a custom signature, right? Well, they declined it. Didn't tell me why, but they declined it. So just so you know, they approve everything. So I can click preview here, and this will show me the actual message that I'm sending. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, we are moving our list from MailChimp to One Shopping Cart. Please take a moment to confirm your subscription below. So this would be the email that I would send to these 34 people. Now, that's not something you have to do, but if you just decide you want to do, okay, I'm going to go to double opt-in, I want everybody to have to double opt-in, then this would allow you to send these 34 people that are part of your list a message to let them know. Now, obviously, you have templates, so you could just click on a template and preview. So these are the ones that are part of One Shopping Cart. Okay, there's all different ones here. Now, obviously, if you're not going to do this step, you don't have to worry about selecting message, but that's what that top portion is about, okay? And then here's your verified opt-in defaults right here. Require opt-in verification for web submissions. I say no. If I say yes, that means there's my double opt-in. So this right here is your double opt-in on by default. I have turned it off in here, okay? But it says I highly recommend that you leave it on, okay? To learn why, click here. So it's going to tell you why. Okay, I turned mine off. Again, you could simply say yes. Okay, that would automatically turn. And then what message? So these messages down here are related, same as these messages up here. So what I recommend is if you're moving your list or your client's moving a list from Aweber to One Shopping Cart, I would actually create a custom message that says, woohoo, I need you to re-opt in because I moved my list. Because somebody will go, why are you sending this to me? Yeah, I'm already on your list. So if you let them know the reason that they're getting the email, they're more likely to click on the link. Now, you will lose, or your clients will lose people when they have to re-opt in. That's just kind of the way it goes. And it can be anywhere from 10 to 25%. But it also cleans your list at the same time. So people who really don't want to be part of your list, they're going to unsubscribe. And that's fine because they're not going to buy from you anyway. So let them go, right? Don't get all discouraged when people leave. I used to. Or let your clients get discouraged. You're just cleaning your list. You're making room for new people, if you will. Okay, and then you can send them an optional opt-in thank you. So in other words, when they get the email, Laura clicks on the link that says, yes, I want to be part of Susan's list. It will redirect them to a thank you URL. So it'll say, Laura, thank you so much for opting in. Thank you for realizing we're moving, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to create a separate page, you would obviously put the link here. Can't spell. Whatever that might be, okay? And that opt-in message, thank you, is when they click on the opt-in link, it's going to redirect them there. If you leave it blank, it doesn't do anything. Up to you. Okay, so once again, you would simply choose your template. You can see that I actually have one here, okay? And then, once again, you can preview it to say exactly what it means. Now, you can create, I'll go ahead and say that. You can create a message down here. So this section right here is where you actually create these custom messages. So what you saw here in this list, this is where we created these. All are reviewed by their abuse team. Makes it sound kind of crazy. And it's 24 hours. I don't know why they call it abuse, but I guess it's spam abuse. So basically you would put in the message name. From email. And then your subject line. Whatever it might be. And then here's the body. Here are the, click here, I can do first name, and I could say, please, is that even a word, re-opt-in? Now realize you're going to have this approved. So I say that. And then here's your links over here, right? Opt-in link. So I actually repeated myself. And then I can scroll down here. I can put my signature, so on and so forth. Okay. And then I can put any additional notes. These are just notes for you. And then again, your thank you URL, and then you save it. Okay. Now, as I scroll down, you'll notice that it says it's pending. So my Ontrapart opt-in is pending. All these other ones are approved. And you can edit any of these by simply hitting edit and coming in and change. Now, if you edit any of them, they're going to have to be pre-approved. Okay. You can also click view. Okay, and here's the original templates that come with One Shopping Cart. I don't recommend that you edit these. You can't actually, or actually you can through Customize. I recommend that you just create your own, or you can copy. So if you want to take some of this, you could actually just copy this and save it as something else. Okay, but there's 7 or 8 of those. So realize that you have to have it approved before it can be used. Okay, so this is the page where you want to go in order to create a custom opt-in message. If you're going to use double opt-in, I recommend you do have a custom opt-in message. And remember, I keep saying you, but this would be you or your clients, okay? If not, make sure that that says no. And then also you have the option to click and send an email to those who are what are considered unverified, okay? Now, just real quick, is it card options? I can't remember where my, well, I'll worry about it later. I was going to show you my custom signature that it got declined, but I won't worry about that. Okay, so that's opt-in preferences, okay? Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is general settings real quick. You can hear my, oh, Laura, you can hear the birds? Yeah, all my windows are open. Hopefully you don't hear the dogs either. Hopefully the birds give you the feel of spring because it's supposed to be 90 degrees here today. Not to my liking. It's a little too warm in the house upstairs. I don't really want to have to turn my air conditioner on in March. That's just, yeah, it's like having your air conditioner on in November. It's just not something I like to do. Okay. All right, so just a couple things. We're going to talk about templates today, autoresponders and broadcast. One of the things that you have the option to do is send yourself a test email. So you can test, and I highly recommend that you test everything that goes out of One Shopping Cart. You test all autoresponders to check all links. Like I sent out a email yesterday. One of the links was bad. And that's my bad because I checked one but not the other. So I should know better, right? But you need to make sure you check all links and you want to make sure the formatting looks correctly, because what happens is, because in One Shopping Cart, everything is HTML based. So it may look different in Outlook than it does in Gmail. And in order to get the test that you send out, you need to add yourself to this list. So you can come in here and just simply put your email address in here and hit add. Now, you can only have 5 in here at a time. So you may have to delete somebody. I don't need to be in here. So just delete somebody and then put yourself in there if you want to see your test. You don't have to do that, but I think it's a good habit for you. And then when you're done, you can just come in here and remove yourself, because what happens is everybody on this list gets a copy of the test, okay? So that means if I send a test, all of you would get the test as well. So remove yourself as needed, okay? And then just down here is if you want to receive notification when somebody signs up on a web form, yes or no. I used to do this. I don't do this anymore because I don't need to know. You can always log into One Shopping Cart and see. Okay, so that's the general settings piece. So bouncing back over here, we're going to talk about setting up templates now. And templates, you can set up templates for everything that you do in One Shopping Cart. All of the broadcasts that you send out or autoresponders. So any messages that you send out of One Shopping Cart, you can create templates for. Okay, if you have different brands, like I have the VA School and the Techie Mentor, and they have different logos. I mean, they're very similar, but I use, so I have 2 different templates. I have templates for everything that I do. So my team can go in at any time and send any type of broadcast or autoresponder based on the templates that I've set up. Just keeps it easy. And that way, you're not recreating the wheel every time. Most people set up an ezine template, a broadcast template, and any repeating broadcast or repeating autoresponder. So if they keep doing the same things over and over again, just create a template for them. It saves you time, it saves them time, and if they need to go in and send something out while you're unavailable, it just makes it easy for them. So there are a couple of tricks when it comes to One Shopping Cart and templates. And one of the cool things is that they've actually created an entire new template category or gallery. This is something new to One Shopping Cart. 6 months ago, they didn't have what they call a template gallery, which I'll show you here in a minute. And everything had to be done by scratch, which wasn't fun. So if you don't know HTML, it was kind of difficult to do some of the work in One Shopping Cart. Well, they've changed that. So you can see that I have several here. I have an Aweber template, a broadcast template, a custom ezine template, all of these different things. And basically, I want to show you how to create a new template. Obviously, you can preview any of these. You can edit them from here. You can delete them. It shows you when they were last updated. Now, this is the creation piece. This isn't the using piece. So we're going to talk about creating these first, and then we'll go into using them a little bit later. So remember, you can create templates for anything that you do. For every broadcast that you send, you should have a basic template that has your client's logo and anything else that they want, their signature, right? Or anything like that. So my signature isn't through one of the ones that's approved by One Shopping Cart. I actually put my signature in my template, so it's there for me, okay? So to create a template, you would click Create New. Okay, it's pretty simple. You give it a name and a description. So be descriptive here. So if somebody else is using the cart beside yourself, they'll understand what the template is for. Same thing with description. So I can say, this is my okay, I have different brands, right? Okay, done. Now here's where the tricky part comes in. Notice that you don't have any type of margins. It actually goes all the way across the page. And this is one of the things that is frustrating when it comes to me to working in One Shopping Cart. So let me show you what I mean, okay? You don't have margins like you normally do. Your margins are the edge of the paper, so here to here. And depending on how large your screen is, depends on how this looks. You can't just set margins like in Word. You know how in Word you can go in format and you can format your page setup and you can change the margins. You can't do that in here. You have to set the margins yourself. And so I'm going to show you a couple of tricks, okay? First of all, I'm going to insert a logo. And basically, you click on this little tree here. And you can, if you have the URL, so it's hosted on WordPress, you could paste it here. You can put it in a description. The other thing you can do is there's actually that media library I showed you last week. You can actually go and grab something out of the media library. So I can click here in this little button, and it takes me to my media library, right? And then from here, I can go into the folders that I set up. So let's see which one I like. So I click on the one that I want, which is this one, and then it shows up over here, and I can simply, all right, why isn't this working? Come on. There we go. That's the one I wanted. I click on Insert, and it inserts the link for me. Okay, I always host things in One Shopping Cart because it's easy. I've got that media library. I don't have to, keep remembering to pull links over from anywhere else. So I would recommend if you're going to use your brands and your logos and any kind of images, you load them into the media library, and you can load them directly from this button here. You don't have to go under Setup. You can give it a description, alignment. The dimensions are automatic based on the size of the image. Now you can change those here, or what I would recommend is you can do the drag and drop method, which I'll show you. You can add a border, and vertical and horizontal space would give it a little bit of padding around the image, and then you hit insert. Okay, now I click on it and I go, well, I want it centered. Now notice how it centers it in the middle of the page. I'm like, crap, I don't want it to be that big. I want to have a smaller margin. Okay, so I put that there for a reason. I wanted to show you this. So what I'm going to show you how to do is create the margin. So I'm going to remove this real quick. Oh, by the way, you can also size it with the handles. So I'm going to delete that. I click on it and I hit delete. So I did that on purpose. Okay. So what I want to do now is set up a margin. So this is where you take out your pen and paper. Okay, for those of you who are watching and listening, because this is key for every template that you do. So if you come in here and you're going to create a custom template, this is what you need to do to set your margins. You have to create a table. And so you come over here, start at the very top of the page, so it's blank, there's nothing in it, there's no logos, there's no spacing, it's at the very top. Okay, and you click the table button right here in the upper left-hand corner. And this is just like the table button in Word. So here's what you want. You want one column and one row. It's just going to be a huge, so the table is going to give you a box, and the box is going to give you your top and bottom and left and right margins. This is key to working in One Shopping Cart. This drove me crazy until I figured this out. So I'm just going to do one column by one row. I don't worry about any other thing in here. I don't worry about cell padding or spacing or alignment or borders or width or anything. Now I could actually, let me take that back. You want to do a width. If you do a width, it's going to try to make it as wide as the page. A good width is anywhere from 650 to maybe 750 pixels, and then you could adjust. So I'll say 650. and I hit insert. Now look here. Do you see my margins? And as I hit enter, see what it does? Now I have my margins. This is key. Now you don't have to, this isn't a traditional table in the sense of a table that you're thinking of with rows and columns. This is just a box in order for us to set our left and right margins. If you don't do this, then your messages are really funky looking when they're received in the different email clients, especially if you hit enter at the end of the line. Well, in some places it doesn't look right. So you'll have like a line, right? And then, you want it to word wrap, right? So it doesn't word wrap when you don't have a table. So you hit enter at the end of each line, and then somebody gets the message and you've got like 2 words on every line because you hit enter based on your screen, not theirs. So if you want a word wrap, so it flows naturally like a word processor, that's what the table will do for you, okay? Key. And then you can just, I hit enter a few times just to make the table nice and big, which I suggest that you do. And then I go back up to the top. Now, a couple other things. Notice down here you have path, table, body. This is all HTML. And you can actually click on preview mode to actually see, here's the information that we're looking at, okay? Here's what created the table right here, okay? I go back to here. So I just go back to the top. And you can, I was here, but that's fine. I go back to the top. And now I could actually start creating my template, right? So I should have something from my client that says this is what my template looks like. And then I can go up here and click on my little button again. Click here to go to my media library. Click here to find my logo. I can put it in the middle and insert. So there it is. And so I click on it and I center it. Now when I center it, notice how it's within the margins. Okay. All right. And then you could do a couple other things. So this button bar should be very similar to you. If you've ever used any type of word processor, even WordPress, the buttons are the same. Bold, italicized, underline, copy, paste, your alignment buttons, your margin, all this kind of stuff. Okay. And then you've got your table buttons because remember you're working in a table. Now what I want to do is I actually want to put a line underneath my logo. So I'm going to use this horizontal line here. Okay. And then I'm just going to enter down. So that just kind of divides it. You don't have to do that. Then I go right under the horizontal line and I'm going to do, whatever your salutation is, hi or welcome or just, so I'll click hi. And then I'm going to, under merge data, here's where you can get your merge codes. And merge codes are dynamic and they automatically fill in based on the contact information, right? So I can say first name and then comma. And now I can just fill this out as I need. So there's a couple other things I need to make sure that you know. Number one is you don't want to copy and paste directly into WordPress. Did I say WordPress? One shopping cart, ever. Just like WordPress. You always want to use a, hold on, I write myself a note here. You want to use a text editor. So for instance, let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to run over to Libsyn here and grab some text. I just want to have something for my example here. And I always have one of those. Let me get a new one. So I'm using TextEdit in the Mac. If you're on a PC, you use Notepad. So my point is just like I teach in WordPress, if you're going to copy and paste it into one shopping cart, don't do it out of Word, because you're going to take HTML code with you that's going to hose up your templates. It's going to hose up your broadcast. What you want to do is strip all the HTML out, which you don't see. So copy and paste it into either Notepad on a PC or TextEdit, right, on a Mac, which is what I've done here. And then basically you're going to copy it out of here. So I'm going to select it, hit Control-C, go back over to one shopping cart, and now I do paste. Okay, so now it's in there. If you don't do that, like I said, you can get all kinds of HTML code that will drive you nuts and you don't know how to get rid of it. There we go. And now what I want to do is, I can go in here and sometimes, and one shopping cart is extremely finicky, okay? Extremely finicky when it comes to working in any type of messaging, whether it's autoresponders or whether it's broadcast or templates. Just know that. It's just a matter of fact, okay? You're just going to have to learn to deal with that. It's always been finicky. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it is. Now notice that I automatically word wrapped based on my table portions, and you can make your table bigger if you want. I usually make it about 650 to 750. It just depends. So here's all my data, and now I can go in and I can do my formatting, and just so you know, bold, right, italicize, underline, all that kind of stuff. Then you've got your different buttons here. The other thing you have is you have the ability to do styles just like you do in Word or in WordPress right here, right? Headings. Okay, you can do those. Those work the same way. And then again, I can center that if I want. And I could change the color. I could drag across it and hit the drop down here. You can choose any of these colors that you want. Or if you click down and hit more colors, you can type in your hex number if you know it. You can also go to the palette. You can also do named. So you can go in here and choose a specific color, right? Okay. You can do highlighting. There's your bullets and numbers. So we'll look at those in just a sec. So let me just copy this again so I have some data. Okay, so now I could go in here and hit my numbers, right? And this is going to be a long template, but you get the idea. Okay, so you can see all that, and then I can always save it. Okay, and here I am. So you can see. Okay, now, why do I save a template? Well, you would put in here the text that either you're going to be sending out every time. So like a lot of my templates, my autoresponder templates already has the text in it. You just have to change a couple of things, right? You have to change a link. You maybe have to change a course name. But for the most part, the body of the text is there. You just have to tweak it. That's basically why you want to use broadcast templates or any type of templates, because it gives you the body. You would simply tweak it as needed, right? You would add the new content, remove old content, so on and so forth. So let me show you a couple other things that's kind of finicky around One Shopping Cart. Notice that you have these two buttons here. They're chain and you can't see them. So if you want to hyperlink something, you have to actually select something before those buttons are live. So now I could click here, right? Could put in my hyperlink. You want to open in the same window or a new. You could give it a title if you want. You just hit insert. There's your link. Very simple. So that's how you can actually link something in One Shopping Cart. Very easy. Okay, so this should give you kind of the gist of things. So the other thing I want to talk to you about, that another finicky feature of One Shopping Cart is the font. Now notice it says font family and font size is blank. Okay, it's this default here. Okay, oh, and by the way, paragraph is the default style, kind of like normal is in Word. If you want to change the font for something, okay, you can, drag across it, click on font family, choose the font. Right? Now notice that it says Tahoma right here. So this is key. You have to watch this. This causes all kinds of problems because it may look okay in here, but when you send it out, it doesn't look okay. Notice how it says Tahoma. Now notice when I click here, it goes back to font family. Here's your hint. Anytime it just says font family, it means the font's not set. It's going to be the default, which means this is Tahoma. Now this is a different type font. So if you want to change everything, the easiest thing to do is do Control A. And what you're looking for is the font family to always say the font that you're looking for. So for instance, I want everything to be Tahoma. Now notice the size is different. Okay, if I want it to be, 12 point. Okay, now I also changed this, which is fine because I can just go back and remove that if I want to. Let me go back to paragraph. Okay, now I can go back to, heading 2 or whatever it was. Now you can see all my text is the same size. So when I click in here, it says Tahoma and the size. If you don't do that, remember how I said it's finicky, then you're going to have a funky look in broadcast because you're going to have different fonts in there. And it will look fine in here, but it doesn't look fine on the other end, which means when you receive it in your Outlook or your Gmail, it looks funny. Okay, so that's another thing you have to watch. So I can save this. And notice you have a save as new, which means if you tweak it, you can always save it as another. Okay. Now, one of the other things I could do, obviously, now notice when I click here in a blank space, notice the font family and font size goes back to nothing, which means right now it's the default font and size. Well, I want it to be Tahoma 12. So a lot of times you have to go back up into the actual broadcast and find where it says Tahoma 12 or whatever your font and size is, hit enter a few times until it stays put, and then start typing. Okay? Didn't I tell you it was finicky? Trust me, this is from years of supporting clients. I actually use One Shopping Cart myself, so I know how this works. Okay, so I could go down here and do my signature, sincerely. And then I can, I actually have my signature as an image, so I click on here. Remember how I said you could go in there? And do I have my signature in here? Thought I did. Maybe I don't. Not under buttons. Hold on. Oh, maybe it's in here. All right. Well, I'll just upload it. So you can just create your own little signature if you want, which is what I've done here. Oops. So I'll put my signature in there. Okay, then I could just click on it and insert it. There we go. And then whatever else I want underneath it. Okay, done. Okay, so remember, if it says font family here, you're going to need to make sure that you change. You can obviously change it, but it's easier sometimes to go back up here and, do what you need. Okay, and you can always look, if you're an HTML person, you can always look at the HTML code on this side. It does cause problems, right, because of the HTML code, but this is HTML. So if you know how to read HTML, you can certainly come over here and look at that and make any fixes to it that you needed over there. So there's my template. Save. Done. Okay. And now I can click here to go back to my templates. Okay, so I just created that one real quick. And if you want to look, like, here's an HTML template. So this one, whoops, all of my images are missing here. This is an HTML template. And this is actually my Techie Mentor template, but I can see that I need to update all my images because they're gone. A lot of times clients will want to do an HTML template. And you actually have to use an HTML tool. I don't recommend that you build HTML in here because that's not what it's for. I recommend you build it in, Dreamweaver or BlueGriffon or Maya, any of those HTML editors, and then copy and paste it in here. You can copy and paste in here, but when you're copying and pasting HTML, it's really important that you copy and paste it on the HTML mode. So you have to erase this and then recopy it in here. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So you can't really import it. You have to do a copy and paste, which means you need to be able to see the HTML code, copy it, and then paste it right over this, and that will fix that. Let me see if I have my easing anywhere. If I do, I think I update mine. So hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see if I can find it. Nope. I was hoping I could find one that I did recently. Nope. All right. Well, that's just kind of one of those FYI things for you. Okay. So I'm just going to back out of there, go back to, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Go back to here. Here we go. Okay, so that's how you work. And now you could create a template for everyone. So your homework today is for you to actually create some templates. So you're going to come in here and play. You can remove any of mine. You can always delete any of these at any time. I think this one doesn't look right either. Yep. So I'm going to actually delete this one. I moved all my images off of this my shopping cart, so that's why it looks kind of funny. So here's an example of one for like a free webinar. You can see that it's got free webinar stuff. Same thing. I'm missing my images, but you get the basic idea. This one would be great for you to be able to create, and then you would basically say, okay, name here, insert here. You basically tell people what to do. Okay. All right. So templates can be for either autoresponders, or they can be for broadcast. Or like, for instance, I could create a very simple an autoresponder template, if I can spell, right? And then once again, I would put in my 1, insert, enter. Oops, I don't think I made that big enough. So now I forgot to put in my size. Now I'm going to do some HTML real quick just because I forgot to do that. There we go. That looks a little bit better. So I could just go in here again and, put in my, so I'm just giving you some ideas here. Put in my logo. Center it. Remember, you can change the size that way, right? Then I could just put hi, first name, comma, and then I could just scroll down to the bottom and do my signature. Right, and then I could just save this. And I could also go through the whole thing of changing my font if I wanted to make sure it was set, or I could just leave it as the default. Okay, save. All right, there we go, done. So I could, and then you would just basically fill in the blanks, but it's got the signature there. Obviously, your signature could have more to it than that, but that would be an example of one. All right, so any questions on creating a template? Okay, most of the time you're going to do templates that have to do with broadcasts, autoresponders, and easings. So an easing template, a lot of times if a client has an easing they like in Infusionsoft or Aweber, you can actually copy and paste the HTML directly in from there. So remember, it's primarily based on HTML, so it's very finicky, okay? Very, very finicky. It's just one of those things that you have to kind of get used to when it comes to one shopping cart. It's always kind of been finicky. So create one for anything that you need to repeat. Default broadcast, default autoresponders. Okay, so now we're going to talk about autoresponders and broadcast using our templates. In one shopping cart, autoresponders play two roles. They play a typical autoresponder role, right? Which means they send out messages or a series of messages that you could drip out over time. You could set the duration between. So, you know, day 1 they get this, day 5 they get this, and so on. Also, they've introduced a new thing called a date sequence, okay, which we're going to talk about. So this is another new thing that they've done as of late, which is really cool because right now, autoresponders are based on the sign-up date. So if Laura goes in and signs up for something, the autoresponder series runs by the date that she opted in. But a lot of times you're like, well, you know, I want it to be on a specific, I want to send I want her to have the first 3 messages maybe on a specific date. So they're date driven. Now the problem with this is that it's something that has to be done at a specific time. So for instance, if the time's already passed, right, and they sign up for the autoresponder, it doesn't do anything because the date is in the past. So most of the time your autoresponders are your specific opt-in driven, which means the date they opted in. But you can do what's called a date sequence, which we'll look at, okay? So they're used as a response to send out a message, but they're also used as lists as a way to segment your contacts. So it actually plays 2 different roles within one shopping cart, which is different than Infusionsoft or different than an Ontraport, right? Or even different than what you see in Aweber or MailChimp. They're called lists, and here they're called autoresponders. And so it plays two parts, okay? And a broadcaster, you know, is just an email that needs to go out on a specific date and time, okay? Autoresponders can go either based on the opt-in or a specific date. But with broadcasts are usually something that goes out based on an email, right? Just an email, and they are sent out a specific date or time, okay? All right, so we're going to go under email and marketing. We're going to start with autoresponders. Okay, as you can see, I have a ton of autoresponders here, and we're just kind of go over the screen real quick. You have, and they're called campaigns, by the way, so they changed that too, autoresponder campaigns. So it's really the same thing here. It's not the same as a campaign in Infusionsoft, by the way. You have the ID. Everyone has a unique number. You have the name. You have a description. The number of messages within this autoresponder has 3. So that means there's 3 separate messages that are dripped out over a course of time. How many people are signed up for this specific autoresponder? Remember, this is the way to segment your list, right? So there's 4 people. Even though I may have 35 people on my list, they may be, you know, spread out between all these different autoresponders. And the reason you segment your list is so you can communicate to specific groups of people. You communicate with them differently based on whether they're clients or prospects or whether they attended a live event or whatever it might be, okay? This will also track orders and revenue, but in here, since we don't have the Payment Gateway Live, it won't do that. The category, the type, remember I said you can have sequence or date-based, and then you can have results. You can send yourself a test. Like I said, it's a test email. You can edit, copy, or delete it. So for instance, I could click on results here. And this just shows me that I have sent out a total of 10, day 0, day 3, day 4. How many have bounced? How many were removed? Complaints, opens, clicks, and orders. So removes means they've unsubscribed. Complaints mean when they unsubscribed, they said you were spamming them. Don't want those. How many people opened it? How many clicks? If there was a click in there, a click-through, how many orders were placed based on the clicks, and then the total number of sales. And then you can also look at different ones. So I could look at message link tracking. So this is cool. That gives you some really good information. Now remember, this one's based, this one doesn't have the ability to do any kind of tracking for orders because it's not live. Okay, so that kind of shows you I have 20. Now, I always recommend that you do a naming sequence or a naming standard for clients. In other words, how do people come on your list? Don't just say event or whatever. Now, you can see here I have like AF. I use abbreviations in mine. So BC stands for boot camp. CC would stand for a different business, CO. I also have things like freebie, a TM would be a techie mentor. I mean, so you can come up with this. It really helps to organize it, also keeps them grouped together. But you really want to say maybe if it's a purchase or a subscription, if it's a purchase or if it's free, because that way you can easily see, and it will actually kind of segment the list as well. Now, obviously you have customers and you have prospects, which are types, so you could use types as well. But the easiest thing to do, I think, is really for campaign name. Now, you can sort by any of these by clicking on the name. So you can see all your customers are together, all your prospects are together. But it's just an easy way for you to kind of look at your list, if you will. All right, so you can also search. Pretty easy, okay? Tells you how many you want to see per page. You can, here's the different categories that you have for campaigns. Affiliates, customers, newsletter, and prospects. So if you don't do newsletters, like you could hit delete, okay? So maybe you only have affiliates, which would be people who sign up for your affiliate program, your customers, and your prospects. You can add additional categories if you want, but categories help you categorize the type of autoresponder is. Does it belong to clients? Does it belong to, and the benefits to that is you can actually send emails broadcast out by the category. So instead of selecting an entire bunch of autoresponders, you could actually just select the individual type. Okay, so let's create a new one. So click on Create New. Now here's where you can choose sequence or date based. So we're going to do a sequence based just to start. And this is the original type, which means it's based on the date that they opt in. You can also click on these little buttons here. They'll give you some ideas. Okay. Link tracking. If you want to track the links that they click on, you could turn that on. Then you give it a name. Okay. I would be descriptive. So I can say, for instance, so I do SS for self-study. As you can see, I have a whole bunch of them. I could do self-study for, one shopping cart. Right? And I can even put purchase here if I want. But I'm not going to do that for this one. Then a description, be as descriptive as you want. Here's your category. So this would be a customer. Who's it from? Your name and an email. I recommend you don't send it from your direct email, your client's direct email, like I always see mine from info@. Is this a featured campaign? And this will tell you. A featured campaign appears in the customer portal. Now, the customer portal was something we talked about, but it just shows the information if your clients have access to your portal. Is it shareable? Okay. If you want to inherit this campaign into other accounts, this means you have multiple one shopping cart accounts. So you're probably never going to use shareable. And then if you want to have it available to look in a browser link so they can click on it and it shows in a browser window. And then next. So you just kind of go. Now this is the confirmation that was sent to contacts you sign up. Be sure you edit this message. So this is the opt-in. Now you'll notice that this one says only new contacts receive the confirmed opt-in message. Contacts already in your account will not. So most of the time this is not really in play, especially if you have off the double opt-in. But this is a new feature that they've added, right? And you can see that you can choose different things that you say here. Please confirm your subscription, whatever it might be. Okay, then you could actually go in and change this if you wanted. Okay, so on and so forth. But that's what this is for. This is new. They didn't have this before. So this is a confirmed opt-in, and only new contacts receive the confirm. Contacts in your list will not. So if anybody is new that signs up for this autoresponder, it's going to try to double opt them in. So this is a new feature in One Shopping Cart. It's kind of trying to force your hand if they sign up. I'll just do default. Okay, and next. So here's where you build your messages, okay? So this is where you can have a series of messages and they can be spaced out accordingly. Laura, So you really want to be sure to do a test so you can see how it really looks. Yeah, always test everything, because you know how finicky one shopping cart is. It's always great, because you might go in there and go, wait a minute, half of this message is Times New Roman, half it's Tahoma. If that's the problem, then you select it all by doing Control A and changing the font in there. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hit add message. Now here's where I can say 0, which means it goes out immediately. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now time of day is blank because we haven't done that other sequence. Subject line, right? Now, send to, you're not going to use alternate destination probably ever. You want it to go to the contact, in other words, the person that signed up. The only reason it would go to alternate destination is if you had a sequence of messages in an autoresponder, and one of those messages was a reminder maybe to your virtual assistant or to your client to do something, then you would choose alternate destination and you would type the email there. I've only used this very sparingly, but what it allows you to do is if you have a long sequence of messages, you can actually send a message to a specific person, and most of the time that's used to remind them of something. So it doesn't go to the person that is in the list, it goes to that alternate contact. So that's the difference there. Obviously you can personalize if you want to put somebody's name in there. And next. Okay, so here's your beautiful broadcast area. And this is the same thing we looked at when we created the template. Now notice here, same issue. Now I have templates here, but I also have use a template here. If I click use a template up here, these are the templates that I created. Can you see them? These are all of mine. Here's the other feature that they have introduced. These are new templates that One Shopping Cart has given us. So these two buttons do two different things, which is crazy. These are new, like I said. Always something fun to happen here. But you could use any of these as a starting point as well. So I could, select this one, say okay. So it gives me almost like a little template that I could do there. Notice again, I have kind of that same vibe. Now this one has a background, so this one's much more fancy. The nice thing is they used to not provide these. You used to have to do these yourself. So if I want to use one of my own templates, I click here. I'm going to go in and say I want to use my Techie Minute broadcast. I say okay. Okay, so there's my template. So now I would go in and make any changes. So I could say, well, I don't want this, delete that, right? I could make any changes. And just for time's sake, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here. And then I would hit save message. Okay, so there's message 1. And then I could hit test to make sure that so test every single one of these. Click test, go check your email, right? And make sure that it's working. You can edit it here. You can also use send to copy a message to another autoresponder. So if you have something that you use quite often, you can send it to another autoresponder by clicking here. It just basically copies it over there for you. So I could go, okay, let's move this one over and make this day 3, right? And then I can say done. So now I just copied that over there. Kind of a neat little feature. So if I want to add another message, I could click add message, right? Say this is day 5, and now I have the ability to choose the time if I wanted. So I can say 8 a.m. I usually don't. I usually just let it go out whenever it wants to, but you could be specific. Right, and then next. And then same thing, I could use that template. Not just for, actually, you know what? I'm going to use this one instead. Okay, then I could just put some information in there. Now notice when I copied it in, here's the finicky. Notice it's a different font than this one. So when I click on it, it says the font family, font size. Well, I'm like, well, that's not what I want. So I have to go through here. This is just part of One Shopping Cart you're going to have to deal with. And so there I fixed it. Now it looks fine. Okay, and now I want to save it. Okay, and I could continue to add as many messages as I want. I'm only going to do 2. And then next. Okay, now this isn't something that people use very often, but here's how this works. If you have a sales funnel, right, and as people come through your funnel, usually they come in as prospects, and then they end up as clients. So you don't really want them in 2 different spots. So you don't want them to show up under prospects and under clients at the same time, because they're really clients now. So what this allows you to do is unregister, unassign them, however you want to say, from a specific autoresponder. So for me, for instance, I have free autoresponders, and then I sell a class. So if somebody purchases the class, I want to take them out of the free autoresponder. So that's what this is for. So I would basically say, okay, let me find the prospect, right? And then I would go through and say, oh, okay, this person signed up for my one shopping cart services, so I'm going to take them out of that. So it means if they purchase it, then they come out of that bucket because they're no longer a prospect. And then here's your summary. Okay, and then finish. Okay, and then there it is. Okay, it shows up in the list. Which one did we do? This one right here. Is that the one I just did? No, here it is. Okay, you can see I have two messages. And by the way, you can click on any of these to jump right to the messages, and then I go to hit test to make sure that I have that, and then save and exit will take me out. Right, and you can also click directly on to see who the person is that signed up for it. Okay. All right, so, and you can also get to autoresponders here if you remember. Nice little shortcut here. Go back to here. All right, so that's pretty simple. Okay. If you want to copy it, you just click copy and you can create an exact copy. So if I want to copy, let's say this one, I hit copy, and then once again, I can do, that works, save. So now I actually copied that entire thing. So now I would just click on it and I would go in and make the changes, right? Prospects, who's it from? Okay, Martha's got her name in here, which is fine. I could do all of these options and then I could do next and next. And then here's my messages. So I could go in and edit these, right? I could go in here and edit the design. I can say, okay, that's not the one I want. So I can go in here to templates. Now remember, this template is going to be the templates for more like e-zines. Go in here and choose, my Techie Tips template, for instance. Yep, that doesn't look good. I got to replace all my images in here, it looks like. I'll just go back and get this one. Make my changes, so on and so forth, and save. So that's what you would do. So that's an easy way. If you reuse them, you could just come in here and then save and exit. Okay, now let's create another one real quick. Let's do it date-based. Okay, so now everything else is the same. We'll do a webinar. Oops. Right, select a category. Obviously, if it's a purchase, they would be a customer, but this one's not. So then, again, my name, my email. If it's a featured, I usually make it available to click through on a link. Okay, I add my message. Now here's the difference. Do you see this is a date and a time? As before, you didn't have a date, you just had a specific duration. So it sends out a day 1, day 5, day 7. This could be date-based. The only problem with this is if the date's in the past, you have an issue, right? Okay, and then just for time's sake, I'm just going to use one of these simple templates. I select it. It always replaces the text. You would make any changes to it, save it, and add another message. And then next, if you only have one message, same thing. You would, if it's going to be unsubscribed, which in this instance it's not, my summary. So that's the difference. So you can see the date-based versus the sequence-based. And so that's kind of a neat little feature they've added as of late. So that's working in those. The other thing I wanted to show you real quick, I'm just going to bounce back over to my email setup under custom templates. If you create a new template, remember I showed you that you could create these, but the templates feature is here too. So you could click this and you could start with one of these templates and edit accordingly, right? So this is one of the new features that came with the newest version of One Shopping Cart. So I could come in here and I could click here and I could go over here, grab my logo and insert it, right? Okay, and then, so I just wanted to show you that there are options to give you some additional fun. So you could just basically go in here and edit this stuff. So you would click here, make changes. So basically all they did was set up a table for you. You could click here and link that button, so on and so forth. So you have the ability to do that with those built-in templates. I haven't really played around with them much, but it definitely is an improvement over having nothing before. Okay, so that's autoresponders. Broadcast is an email that's sent, you can send it to an autoresponder, a stored search, a segment, specific tags, and you can schedule it. So when it comes to autoresponders, there's different ways that you can send it. You can send it to everybody. You can send it just to a segment of your list. And the segments are really by autoresponder, stored searches or saved searches, and tags. Okay. These are ones that are scheduled to be sent out on a specific date and time. And this is different than the autoresponder feature because you can choose who this goes to. So if you want to communicate to everybody on your list or just people who have purchased, whatever it might be. And once again, you can still use your templates. So email and marketing autoresponders takes me to my autoresponders. Broadcast will take me to my broadcast. And from here you have, these are broadcasts that have been sent. Okay, the date, the time, the schedule ID, unique. Those are unique numbers. Your subject, how many it went to, how many failed, how many people opened, how many complaints, how many unsubscribed, what format was it in? Was it text or HTML? What was the status? Here's your results, your preview. You can reuse, you can delete. So you can reuse any of these very easily by clicking on reuse, okay? You also have drafts, which means these have not been sent. These are all just draft. And it tells you what message, step 1 of 4, step 3. So I could go in here and delete any of these, right? If I'm not using them. Some of these are quite old, right? I could just go in and delete these. But what happens is when you send a test out, this is very important. When you send a test out, right, because you want to test everything, the test actually sits in drafts until you send it, okay? Don't go back, don't go to this test page and open one of these, because what happens if you edit one of these, it sends it out with the word test in it. So when people get it, they're like, why is this a test? So stay away from the test tab. After you send something, send a test, go to the drafts to get it. Does that make sense? Very important, okay? This happens all the time to people because they're like, wait, whoa, what happened? I didn't mean to send a test, okay? Okay, so you've got sent. And remember, you can do results, give you a little bit of information. Any links that were in there, clicks, any sales, kind of shows you all this. How many failed, which means it bounced, which we'll talk about bounced in a later time. Okay, edit, and then also delete. So that's from the drafts. That's from sent. You can also reuse sent ones. Okay, so if it's not in the draft, you can just jump over to the sent tab and grab it from there. But do not take it off the test tab is my biggest thing. Okay, so to create a new one, click here. It's pretty similar to what you just saw. Subject line, just for, okay, do you want to track links? Do you want to track, you've got track clicks or advanced tracking. And if you click the button over here, it'll tell you the difference. Okay, do you want to view in a browser link, which just gives them the option to view it as a web page. And then here's your template, right? So I grab my template again. Okay, I'm missing my image there, so I'm going to just put it back in real quick. Okay, so I would go in and I could, thank you for signing. Now this is obviously not a broadcast, but you get the idea, right? You would go in and do your format, make your things, make sure, again, same thing happens here. You have to make sure that you've got your formatting correct, make sure you do any updates, and then save it as a draft. You can save it as a new draft, which create a new one. We can just hit next. Okay, now here's the big one. Who are you sending this to, right? Because a broadcast can be sent to specifics. An autoresponder only goes to people that sign up for that specific autoresponder. This can be sent to everybody or anybody, right? So your target is who are you sending it to? Contact type, segments, tags, autoresponder sort. Remember I said there's different ways you could do this. Segments and storage searches are really the same thing now. They're kind of moving away from storage search and starting to call them segments, which we'll look at more next week. But basically, look, I can say all contacts, which means everybody. I can just do all prospects, all customers, all affiliates, all unconfirmed contacts, which means those people who haven't opted in, and all users. Users would be people who log in, like our dummy names that we use to log in the sandbox would be a user. Okay, so I could just choose any of these. So if I want to send everything to anybody who's bought something from me, I could just choose all customers, right? And back over. Very easy. Segments. Now, every time you click on a new one up here, it tells you it's going to change it. So segments are something we look at, but segments is an additional way to even further segment a list. Like I have Arizona customers, customers in Canada, customers who have placed more than 5 orders, Massachusetts customers. So you can be very specific on a segment. Tags. This is similar to what you see in OneShop or Infusionsoft. You can create tags when you create what are called web forms. You can't create tags any other way. Tags are only allowed to apply when somebody comes through your website, when somebody uses a web form. So this would be what these are. And then autoresponders, which is one of the most common things. So you would choose a specific autoresponder, right? So for instance, if I want to send it to everybody who's going to be coming to one of my webinars, like my marketing secrets, I would just flip it over there. You can do multiples too, right? I could click on any of these, right? And so on. Okay, and then the last one would be storage search. Now, every time you flip screens, it changes it. So this, remember, storage search and segments right now are the same thing. You can see there's a little different. Okay, one of the fun things you can do is you can also do a test, and this is something new. So I can choose all contacts up here, but then I can say exclude. So I say all contacts, but exclude specific contact types, segments. So I could say, for instance, include all contacts except those that live in Arizona. See how that works? So it would, instead of me trying to search to see, okay, I want everybody but Arizona, I can now have the ability to exclude specifics, right? Or I could go to a tag. Okay, so this is who it's going to send it to, excluding this information down here. So I could say, okay, anybody who gets my e-zine, right? Or I could do it by autoresponder. So I get everybody except for these people who took lead pages, okay, and so on. And then you can actually calculate to see how many people that will go to. So I'll tell you, go to 39. Okay, so in order for it to be excluded, they have to actually be in this autoresponder in order for it to take them out of the all contacts list. Does that make sense? So there's really great ways that you can now design and send autoresponders. They give you a lot more options. And then next. Okay, here's what it looks like. Shows you everything. And then you can click on preview right here. Now I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, that doesn't look like I want it to at all. First of all, this is a different font. This isn't the same font as Verdana, which is so can you see how finicky this is? Okay, I've also got some problems. This is up here. I don't want that there, right? So I can see, okay, well, that doesn't work. Now, preview sometimes looks fine, but it's not. So you always want to send a test, right? So I can hit send test, and now it's going to send a test. Now, remember, it shows up in the test feature here just to show you that it's currently being sent out, okay? So I could go back to drafts, and I could go back into edit. I go back into design. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't the right font. And notice when I click on looking, it says font family, font size. So I'm like, wait a minute, no. Dude, that's supposed to be Verdana 12. I'm like, okay, now that looks better. Okay, save. And then I could resend it. So I could jump right over to send. I could re-preview it. I'm like, okay, that looks better, right? I didn't fix that, but you get the idea. And then I could resend a test, okay? Now you could save it as a draft, save it as a new draft. And the other beauty is that if it's ready to go, you can click send. And here's where you can send it right now, or you can send it later. Okay, so you could choose a date and time for it to go, right? And this is in Eastern time, by the way. Okay, so send now would put it in line in one shopping cart to go out of the queue, which means as soon as it's able, it'll go. It may not be immediate, it may take 10 minutes. And that's the other thing you have to realize. Sometimes when shopping cart's really, really quick, other days they're really busy, it takes a little more time. Same thing when you send tests. Sometimes it takes longer than you think. Okay, and then I hit send. And now it's queued up. So if I go to the sent tab where I am, it may take a few minutes. Okay, yeah, you can see that it says it's queued up to go 3:19 at 2 p.m. So I can preview it from here, I can reuse it, I can delete, or I can hit cancel. So if I decide I don't want it to go, I can hit cancel. Okay, and now it's been canceled. And I'll go back to broadcast and you'll be able to see that it's canceled. Okay, now I could easily reuse this. If there was a misspelling or something, I could just click reuse, right? And I could just go to design and then I could set up a new one. So really quickly, remember, when you create one and you send a test, it puts it in sent and it puts it in test and in draft. You don't want to grab anything off the test site. And one of the easiest things to do, I found, is just delete them. When you're done with them, just take them off this page because it will lessen the confusion. And this is the test page. So I could delete all the ones here, right? And so on. Okay, give you the ideas. And then there's your drafts. You can also get to your templates from here. Okay, so rule of thumb, always test all of your autoresponders and all of your broadcasts to make sure that they look the same. Don't use the test tab for anything other than just viewing. If you've sent something out as a test, you'll go back to the drafts to get it. You can preview it, you can edit, you can also delete it. Okay? Okay, so always use a template, and there are some new templates available that I showed you that you can use now and tweak as you need, and I really recommend that you might want to play with those, and then always test it for the linkings and for formatting, because you never know what it's going to look like. Okay? All right, so for your homework for this session, if you haven't had a chance to look at all of the setups that we went through last week, take a minute to look at those, and I'd like you to set up a test template however you want for whatever you want. You could do one for easy. You could try one of those new templates that have, or start from scratch and create your own. Set up a test autoresponder, create a draft broadcast message, and I want you to test each one of those. Now, in order to test it, the easiest thing to do is just add yourself as a contact. You can go under Contact, Manage Contact, and you can just go to, where is it? They keep changing stuff. Yeah. There we go. Go to search and hit create new contact and add your information. And then when you go into add it under email setup, it'll grab your information. You can add it here too, and it will say you're not a new contact. If you're a new contact, it will ask you to prompt. Either way will work. But if you're going to test, remember, if you're going to test what you put in, you need to be in this test group right here. Okay. You can also remove somebody as well. All right, so we reviewed Module 3, which is all about setup. Today we looked at email setup, talked about the double opt-in and all the wonderful things that go with that. Look at the templates that you can create, the new templates that come with One Shopping Cart, setting up autoresponders, and broadcast. Questions? I know we need to find out for sure about that CAN spam law, which I will do, especially the Canadian piece. I know it was a lot of good information. So this is one that you were probably going to watch more than once, but it is an awful lot of information. So remember, if you have any questions or any issues, go to help at techiementor.com or post in the Facebook group, and I'll be glad to help you in any way that I can. Remember, it's not a race. Well, it is for me to get through all the material in time, but it's not a race for you to learn this stuff. And you have these these downloads, these videos to download and kind of keep you up to date. Laura, I think I finally get autoresponders are funky in One Shopping Cart, right? They're very different than they are in Infusionsoft, so I get that it takes a while to understand them. I think the biggest takeaway for everybody today is that One Shopping Cart is very finicky. Always has been. And it's come a long way since I started using it over 5 years ago. So, all right, everybody. Well, I will see you next week. Make sure you get in there and start playing around. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and look for this information to be out shortly. See you next week. Bye.